Good evening, everyone. Facebook Live, Nick BERES here, coming to you on a Sunday night, 5:30 Central Time. Listen, excuse my appearance. I've been working in the yard. It's been a hot day. But I wanted to do this Facebook Live as we're going to talk about the very latest developments. Sadly, there aren't a lot to talk about with regard to the disappearance of 5-year-old Summer Wells. By the way, I was out collecting my dinner. I have chickens. Check it out. I got 2 eggs. 2 eggs. So I'm going to make an omelet later. So that explains my hair and my mess and the way I look. But here I am just outside Nashville, Tennessee, and talking about a very serious topic, though, the disappearance of this sweet child and what we know right now. Let me just tell you right off the top, today there was no TBI news conference. They typically do one 4 o'clock weekdays, but this being a Sunday, unless there was some new development, the TBI did not have anything new to share today. I do know that this morning they were back out in force there in Hawkins County, Tennessee. Now, I'm here in Middle Tennessee in the Nashville area. Hawkins County, for those of you who aren't familiar, and I know many people have been following this case, not just statewide, because it's a statewide story, it's an Amber Alert, but across the country and even some of you overseas. I have people messaging me from Canada. But Hawkins County is a very small county in far northeast Tennessee, okay? It's about as far as you can get in this state without leaving the state. And it's very rural, small, not a wealthy county, not a lot of cities in that area. It's small. And that is where 5-year-old Summer Wells disappeared. It will be 13 days. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow evening, all right? Disappeared from the home. Most of you know the backstory on that. I'm just going to try to give you the very latest on what we know, and I'll then take as many questions or comments some of you have on that. I'm doing that if we would do a Facebook Live, and so I'm glad to do it. I wish we could do a Facebook Live like this for every child missing in the entire country. Okay, this is something locally here. It's making a lot of news here in Middle Tennessee, not just because it is a Amber Alert. Keep in mind, though, it's outside technically our viewing area, though our viewers here are very interested in this case. But it comes on the tails of a Joe Clyde Daniels case. We just got done with that trial. We carried it gavel to gavel at News Channel 5. And Joe Clyde Daniels was a 5-year-old blonde child, disappeared 3 years ago, April. His remains have never been found, but his father was just convicted of homicide in that case and sentenced and will be sentenced basically to life in prison. Very similar in that Joe Clyde, 5 years old, little blonde child, disappeared from his home in Dixon County, Tennessee, never found. There are differences, of course, in the case. With Summer Wells' case, okay, her remains, of course, have not been found. She may still be alive. She has not been found yet. But unlike in the Joe Clyde Daniels case, where his father confessed 2 days after he disappeared, no confession, no suspect has come forward at this point, all right? We know that Summer's family, according to law enforcement, cooperating with them. They have not been named a suspect. There have been no suspects named, but attorneys, the district attorney rather, says, along with the TBI and investigators, that everyone at this point is considered a person of interest. Now, let me tell you, I flew out in Sky 5 this past week to Hawkins County, okay? It's past Knoxville. You know, I flew out there to see for myself what the area looks like. And let me just tell you, the home where she disappeared, and the word was, remember, from the parents, is that she was helping plant flowers in a garden next to the house there. And this is in a rural area. There's just houses and woods and a few houses and woods. And that she said she wanted to go back inside and play with her toys, went down into the basement. A short time later, her mom went in to look for her, and she was gone. They said the back door was open. All right. The father, to this point, has said, and I tend to agree with this, I find it very hard to believe that Summer on her own wandered away from that home, is somewhere in the woods. And, you know, if she was by herself and alone and it's been 13 days, if that's what happened, it's very unlikely she's alive now, if she wandered away. But, I mean, seeing for myself, knowing she was barefoot, the proximity of this, I just don't see the child wandering away. The father seems to think maybe, well, was she abducted? There are other options. I can tell you this. The sources I've talked to say that the key right now is finding Summer, of course, dead or alive. But that the shift in the investigation to this point is that they're looking more and more at the possibility that foul play is involved here. They're not saying that she may not be out in the woods somewhere, but that the fact that there have been, I mean, more than 70 different agencies from 5 different states, canine units, line and grid checks where, officers are walking basically hand in hand. I saw this myself last week through fields to make sure they don't miss anything. And they haven't found a trace. Tells me that she didn't wander into the woods. Okay. Now, is it possible if some type of foul play befell her that whoever did that disposed of her body in the woods? Yes, which is, in my opinion, why they are still looking out there. Sure, they want to look and see, and if she wandered off and fell in a hole and hurt herself and something like that, they want to do that. But they're looking to find her because that piece, whether she's found dead or alive, will point them in the direction of what actually happened. And, again, that's conjecture. And gosh, wouldn't it be wonderful if somehow they found her alive out there sometime overnight tonight, and maybe she had fallen into a sinkhole and somehow survived on water down in there and they find her? That would be great. That's really unlikely, okay? Really, really unlikely. So against this backdrop, one of the main developments from this weekend that I think is worth noting is that there's potentially a new lead. And the fact that they would release this is they say there might be a witness that they would like to talk to. We're talking about the TBI, and you might have heard this. There is a report of a Toyota pickup truck that was seen in the area of Beach Creek Road and Ben Hill Road. Ben Hill Road is the road she lived in. Late in the afternoon or early evening, either Monday, June 14th, or Tuesday, June 15th, which is when she disappeared. The pickup is possibly a 1998 2000 maroon or red Toyota Tacoma with a full bed ladder rack along with white buckets and a truck bed. That seems like, think about that. You should be able to spot that. 1998 2000 maroon or red Toyota Tacoma. A full bed ladder rack along with a white bucket seats in the truck bed, or rather white buckets in the truck bed. White buckets in the truck bed. The TBI is trying to identify this driver. They're stressing, and it's important to note, this driver is not a suspect, okay? They're not saying that this driver is a suspect, but that this driver is a potential witness who may have heard or seen something in that area around the time Summer disappeared. The big question is witness to what? That tells you that law enforcement thinks there was something to be seen there. And so we've got the possibility of an abduction. Did they see someone else drive away from the area? A suspect potentially that may have been spotted by this individual. As far as I know, as of today, the person that they're looking for, they're hoping he would have seen the news reports, has come forward and turned himself in, or I don't say turned himself in, came in to answer their questions and say, yeah, that was me. Can I help you? That person has not come forward. So against that backdrop, that person maybe hasn't heard, or maybe the person is, more significantly, some type of suspect in this case. We don't know, but that person needs to come forward. And if you know who that person is, you need to tell the TBI where to find them. One thing that I also picked up last week when I made my way out there doing research and talking to a lot of other folks, we haven't heard this from the TBI yet, but again, this is a small rural area where she lives, but in her zip code, there are more than 40 registered sex offenders. More than 4 registered sex offenders living in the area where Summer Wells has a home. I guarantee you, every single one of them that was around has been talked to, vetted, being watched. I can tell you at this time, Summer Wells' family, okay? Her father, her mother. She has a grandmother, I believe, there, and 3 brothers, younger brothers, or young brothers. They're not necessarily younger than her. I'm not sure what the ages were. But they've all been spoken to. They're all being watched. They may be questioned again. There's talk that some took lie detector tests, that the mom may have taken a lie detector test and passed. Again, lie detector tests are not foolproof. That's why they're not admissible in court. But everyone is being watched. Those sex offenders that live in the area are being scrutinized. It's just at this point a dead end. And that's where it brings me back to Joe Clyde Daniels. His father was convicted of first-degree murder, would not say or says he doesn't know where the boy's body is because he confessed and then he recanted and said he really didn't do it, but the jury didn't buy it and they convicted him. But they've never found his remains. And so you just wonder, where the search they've done, where is Summer's remains or where is she? It's just, it's a complete and total mystery. But I have to tell you this too, having flown over in Sky 5, the area around the home, there are woods. It's very rugged. I've talked to the search crews. I mean, you've heard about it. And they're, by the way, thankful so much. They haven't called for volunteers to help, but there have been enough professionals out there to cover the ground. But they say they're so thankful for the folks in the community and others who have come forward to bring them food and water and to help provide the support they need there at the staging area. In fact, they're to the point where I saw the other day, they said, we have enough for now, but we'll let you know when we need more. But they say this ground is extremely rugged. There are copperheads and rattlesnakes, occasionally bears in that area, and more, very thick brush. Again, that's why I find it hard to believe that Summer would have wandered off on her own barefoot like this very far and gotten lost. I just don't buy that. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they find her. But something else has gone on there, and my belief, again, is that the investigation, there's two tiers to this investigation. There's one, the search and rescue, okay? A search and rescue that's out there looking for Summer, one way or another, dead or alive. They just want to find her, okay? That's one facet of it. The other facet is behind the scenes, and that is investigators working on, okay, we're going to try to find her, but what happened to her? That's the stage they're at right down. With every day that passes, the trail or whatever is there becomes more cold. So there's a certain sense of desperation here. In the absence of any other leads or anything else, those closest to Summer, family, friends, and everyone, are a focus. They're not suspects, and you've got to think it would be awful to accuse the parents who, by all accounts, from what I've seen of their statements they've made, are heartbroken of this, of being involved. But the sad fact is, in these types of cases, almost 100% of the time, whoever's responsible is someone close to the child. It's just the way it plays out. I mean, the possibility that a complete and total stranger happened to just wander into this home and take the child if it was an abduction, does that make sense to you? Not a chance. Yes, has it happened? Of course, but it's highly unlikely. So someone's telling me here, WJHL, which is the TV station out there, just posted, and thank you. JHL, by the way, has done a great job out in the eastern part of the state following this story. I read a lot of what they do. Saying crews announced they are scaling back the search for Summer. And some people become upset with that. As they start scaling back, if they downsize, I think the possibility is going to be that they're going to call and allow volunteers to go out and look. That time has not happened yet, as far as I know. But I know there are some volunteers, folks with dogs that want to help and search, you know, the canines, the bloodhounds. But scaling back the search, as you know, the focus of the search was within a 6-mile radius around the home, much of that wooded. If they've covered that as a grid search and felt that they've done so thoroughly, then they're going to scale back. At what point do you just keep going farther and farther out? It's difficult to do as the space expands. But if that's true, that they're scaling back, it means they've covered the ground that they think is most likely to have a sign of Summer, and they haven't found anything. And at some point, they've got to scale it back. I mean, you wish you could have 1 million people out there at once looking. That's not the way it works. They do the best they can under difficult circumstances. But the folks involved in these searches also have other things they have to attend to. So it would not surprise me if in the next day or two, if they do scale it back significantly, that maybe they open this up more to volunteers. But they want it to be organized. So we'll see. And when that happens and that's announced, I'll let you know. Let's see, what else do we have here? Very sad, continuing to follow. Prayers for Summer. I hear you on that. What else do we have here? They just posted they're cutting back. Many people mentioning that. Someone posting a picture with her funeral wreath. Look, we don't know that Summer is dead. We don't. Okay? We just don't. And without any physical evidence, too, it's very difficult to charge someone in a case. The only reason Joe Clyde's father was charged in his case, though they never found his body, and that was the case out of Dixon, Tennessee, where he was just convicted at trial last month. The only reason that happened is because his father confessed. His father confessed and later recanted, but he confessed, and that confession, with some corroboration, stood up at trial. So yes, can you convict someone of murder without a body? Yes, you can. But you need something like a confession or eyewitnesses. And in this case with Summer, no one has confessed. With no physical evidence, it's very hard to have any lead to point in the direction of a suspect. Let's see. David Marshburn, who is an investigator out of North Carolina who helped in the search for Joe Clyde Daniels, is not, as I know. I know he's aware of this case, but he's not involved at this point. Let's see, what else do we have here from you? Oh, wow. Look at this. Grayson says now 106 agencies now as of this morning. Wow. Thank you. Yeah. And Grayson is 45 minutes from Rogersville, Tennessee. That number keeps growing. Think about that. Representatives from 106 agencies have been involved in this search. And they're all committed. They're all good people out there. I watched them. They were working in the hot sun under very difficult circumstances. And it's got to be frustrating. It's got to be frustrating that they haven't found anything. They're good at what they do. Let's see, 106, that's incredible, but they're going to be scaling it back. As far as I know, a polygraph, as I mentioned, I think the mother had one in past, but I don't know how she was asked and when that was done. I don't know about anyone else. Why is it that the parents cannot be cleared or ruled out? Well, because at this point, as they said, everyone close to the girl is considered a person of interest. I mean, you can't rule someone out until you know what happened to the child and determine if someone else was involved or if the child just wandered away on their own. So the point is the parents aren't ruled out, but here's the thing. No one with proximity to this family is ruled out, okay? Period. So that's why they're not ruling anyone out right now as a person of interest, but they haven't said that anyone is a suspect. I know that I saw that the FBI is bringing in a special unit that specializes in searching for children. So the FBI also is involved. So we have federal agencies involved. And I don't know the details on how that unit works, but they're bringing in a separate new unit from outside the area that specializes. And what that tells me is that specializes in looking at foul play. I think that tells me that this special unit's investigators will start interviewing many of the people that are persons of interest, looking for inconsistencies, looking for someone to change their story, looking for something that doesn't add up. And when someone starts, giving them missteps like that, the pressure increases. And you'll see if someone, breaks in those circumstances.